The phone rang just as Natalie Brooks zipped her laptop into its travel bag. 3 weeks in El Pozo, Texas. The final client meeting had finally wrapped up, and all Natalie could think about was getting home to Plano. She had another flight tomorrow morning, another project waiting next month, another hotel room somewhere else in Texas. Business travel had become her normal life. The caller ID read, Mrs. Patricia Simmons. Natalie smiled before answering. Mrs. Simmons was the retired woman who lived one floor above her condo. She watered everyone's plants, baked pies for neighbors during Thanksgiving, and somehow knew everything happening in the building before anyone else did. Natalie, honey, the older woman laughed. You trying to light up the whole neighborhood? Natalie chuckled. What are you talking about? Your electric bill ended up in my mailbox again. Sweetheart. I almost fell over when I saw it. I told myself, that poor girl must leave every light on 24 hours a day. Natalie laughed politely. I appreciate you letting me know. I'll pick it up when I get home. No rush, dear. Just thought I'd warn you. Thank you. The call ended. The smile faded from Natalie's face. She remained standing in the middle of the quiet hotel room, still holding her phone. 5 weeks. She hadn't stepped inside her condo for 5 full weeks. This assignment in El Pozo had lasted nearly 3 weeks, and before that she'd spent almost 2 weeks helping launch a new office in Corpus Christi. Her condo had been completely empty. At least, it was supposed to be. Natalie slowly sat on the edge of the bed. The electric bill. Maybe it was just a mistake. Billing errors happened. Didn't they? She tried convincing herself that was the only logical explanation. But another thought quietly crept into her mind. If nobody had been home, who was using that much electricity? Her cat, Jasper, certainly wasn't. He had been staying with her best friend, Lauren Mitchell. Lauren and Natalie had met nearly 13 years earlier during freshman orientation at the University of North Texas. They had accidentally collided outside the student union, spilling coffee across both of their notebooks. Lauren had laughed first. Natalie couldn't help laughing too. Instead of going to class, they spent 2 hours talking over fresh coffee. That conversation had turned into 13 years of friendship. Lauren had been there through everything. When Natalie's engagement ended 6 years ago, Lauren practically moved into her apartment for a week. When Natalie's father passed away, Lauren handled phone calls Natalie couldn't bring herself to answer. Whenever work sent Natalie across Texas, Lauren watched Jasper without ever asking for anything in return. 3 years earlier, Natalie had handed Lauren a spare key. Just in case, she'd said. If maintenance ever needs access, or there's a leak, or something unexpected happens. Lauren had hesitated. Are you sure? Absolutely. I probably won't ever need it. I trust you. Back then, giving Lauren a key had felt completely natural. Like giving someone permission to help if life ever went wrong. Now, that same memory felt different. Natalie opened the airline app. Her return flight was scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. She cancelled it. Then booked the very last flight leaving that evening. She didn't text Lauren. She didn't mention anything to her family. She simply packed her suitcase. The flight to Dallas was barely an hour long. Normally Natalie watched movies or answered emails. Tonight she couldn't focus. She kept staring at the photo of the electric bill Mrs. Simmons had texted her. The number looked impossible. She began doing calculations in her head. She traveled for work almost 10 months every year. Usually 2 or 3 weeks each month. If someone had been staying inside her condo. Not just once, but regularly. The utility bills suddenly made perfect sense. No? You're getting carried away. Maybe the air conditioner malfunctioned. Maybe a water heater leaked. Maybe. She stopped thinking. Only one person always knew when she left town. Only one person had a key. Lauren. Natalie immediately shook her head. No. Absolutely not. Not Lauren. Not after 13 years. She leaned against the airplane window as darkness covered the Texas landscape below. Eventually she closed her eyes. The next morning, shortly after 8, Natalie stepped out of a rideshare in front of her condominium building in Plano. Everything looked exactly the way she'd left it. Quiet. Peaceful. Normal. She rolled her suitcase toward the entrance. Then stopped. A young couple walked out of her building. The man pulled a large silver suitcase behind him. The woman carried a backpack and a stainless steel coffee tumbler. They looked exhausted. But happy. Like people finishing a weekend getaway. Natalie frowned. Something felt wrong. The couple approached her. "Good morning," Natalie said politely. "Morning," the man replied with a smile. Natalie glanced toward the entrance. "Are you visiting someone here?" The woman answered casually. "No, we are actually checking out." Natalie blinked. "Checking out?" "Yeah." The man lifted his phone. "We rented the condo online." Natalie's heartbeat slowed. "I'm sorry. What condo?" The man looked confused. "This one." He turned the phone toward her. Natalie stared at the listing. The photos showed her living room, her kitchen, her balcony, her blue coffee mug sitting on the shelf exactly where she'd left it before flying to El Pozo. And the address at the top of the listing was her own. For several long seconds, Natalie couldn't move. The smiling couple stood in front of her, completely unaware that the woman they were talking to actually owned the condo they'd just rented. The man noticed the expression on her face. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Natalie forced herself to smile. "Yeah. Sorry. Long business trip." She stepped aside, allowing them to pass. "Have a safe drive." "You too." They walked toward the parking lot, chatting about where to stop for breakfast before heading home. Natalie watched them disappear. Only after their car pulled away did she finally unlock her front door. The condo looked perfect. Nothing appeared to be missing. The sofa cushions were neatly arranged. The kitchen counters were spotless. The blankets had been folded with military precision. Someone had even watered the houseplants. If Natalie hadn't just spoken to that couple, she never would have suspected anyone had been inside. She slowly walked into the living room. Her eyes scanned every corner. Then she noticed it. The decorative pillow she always kept on the left side of the couch was sitting on the right. Tiny detail. Almost meaningless. Except Natalie never moved it. She continued through the condo. The towels in the bathroom were folded differently. One wine glass had been placed in a different cabinet. A bottle of olive oil she remembered leaving nearly empty now looked almost full. Every change was subtle. Each one, by itself, could have been explained away. Together, they painted an entirely different picture. Someone hadn't just entered her condo. Someone had been living here. Again and again. Natalie grabbed her phone. Her hands were shaking. She opened one of the largest vacation rental websites and typed in her address. The listing appeared immediately. Beautiful professional photos. Her living room. Her bedroom. Her kitchen. Even her balcony overlooking the small community park. The description made her stomach twist. Modern luxury condo in Plano. Minutes from Legacy West. Fast Wi-Fi. Free parking. Self-check-in. Perfect for business travelers and weekend getaways. 5-star reviews. Dozens of them. Spotless. Excellent communication. Will definitely stay again. Exactly like the photos. Natalie kept scrolling. 38 reviews. 38. That wasn't one mistake. That wasn't one unauthorized stay. This had been happening for a long time. She opened the host profile. The account name read Brittany M. No last name. No photo. Just a smiling sunset as the profile picture. Natalie felt a tiny flicker of hope. Maybe this had nothing to do with Lauren. Maybe someone had copied the photos somehow. Maybe criminals had broken in. Maybe. She immediately called Daniel Foster, an attorney who had helped her review employment contracts several years earlier. He answered after the second ring. Natalie. I need advice. His voice instantly became serious. Tell me what happened. For nearly 10 minutes she explained everything. The electric bill. The travelers. The online listing. The reviews. The spare key. Daniel stayed silent until she finished. Finally, he said. Do not contact whoever is running that listing. I was about to. Don't. Why? Because if they are making money from your property, the moment they know you've discovered them, evidence starts disappearing. Natalie looked back at the listing. What should I do? Take screenshots. She immediately started saving everything. The photos. Click. The reviews. Click. The host profile. Click. The calendar. Click. Daniel continued. Then have someone else attempt to reserve the condo. What would that accomplish? We need payment information. Natalie understood immediately. If we know where the money goes, we know who we are looking for. Natalie called her cousin, Rachel Turner, who lived outside Austin. Rachel answered with her usual cheerful energy. Hey. Aren't you still in El Pozo? I came home early. Oh? Everything okay? I need a favor. Sure. Natalie explained what she needed. Silence. Then Rachel laughed. Hold on. You want me to book your own condo? Yes. Rachel laughed even harder. Please tell me you're joking. I'm not. Natalie. I'm serious. Another long pause. Finally Rachel sighed. I don't understand what's happening. But I trust you. Thank you. I'll text you whatever I find. 5 minutes later. Her phone vibrated. Rachel had reached the payment screen. Attached was a screenshot. Natalie zoomed in. The payment recipient wasn't anonymous. It displayed a real name. Brittany Mitchell. Natalie's heart skipped. Mitchell. Lauren's last name. She stared at the screen for nearly a minute. Then slowly whispered. No. It couldn't be. Could it? Maybe Mitchell was common. Maybe it was another Brittany Mitchell. There had to be thousands. Didn't there? She immediately searched Lauren's social media. Lauren rarely posted family pictures. But after several minutes, Natalie found one. A Christmas dinner from 2 years earlier. Everyone stood around the table smiling. Lauren. Her parents. And a younger woman wearing a red sweater. The caption read, Christmas with my little sister Brittany. Natalie's stomach tightened. She looked back at Rachel's screenshot. Then back at the family photo. The same first name. The same last name. Her breathing became shallow. She picked up her phone. Scrolled to Lauren's number. Her thumb hovered over the call button. But Daniel's warning echoed in her mind. Don't contact anyone until you have enough evidence. Natalie slowly lowered the phone. Instead, she decided to wait. Because if Lauren truly had nothing to do with this, one careless phone call could warn the real person responsible. Natalie spent the rest of the afternoon documenting everything. Every screenshot. Every review. Every photo. She even recorded her computer screen while scrolling through the listing, making sure the date and time were visible in the corner. Daniel had been clear. Collect evidence first. Ask questions later. By early evening, she felt mentally exhausted. She had barely eaten all day. The silence inside the condo suddenly felt different. Not peaceful. Occupied. Every chair. Every coffee mug. Every blanket. Someone else had touched them. Strangers had slept in her bed. Cooked in her kitchen. Sat on her balcony drinking coffee, while believing they had rented a vacation property. Natalie slowly walked into the bedroom. She opened the closet. Everything looked normal. Until she noticed something strange. One set of spare bed sheets had been folded differently. Not the way she always folded them. Someone else had done it. She closed the closet door without saying a word. Around 7 that evening, her phone rang. Lauren Mitchell. Natalie stared at the screen. For a second she considered ignoring the call. Instead, she answered. "Hey." Lauren said cheerfully. "I heard you got back early." Natalie frowned. "I didn't tell you I was home." There was a tiny pause. "Oh? I figured you were." "Why?" "I don't know." Lauren laughed awkwardly. "I just had a feeling." Natalie didn't respond. Lauren quickly changed the subject. "Jasper's doing great. He's been looking for you all day." "I'm glad. I can bring him over tonight if you're home." Natalie hesitated. This was her chance. If Lauren knew something, would it show? "Sure," Natalie finally said. "Come by around 8. "Perfect. See you then." The call ended. Natalie stared at the blank screen. How had Lauren known she'd returned? She hadn't posted anything. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted anyone except Rachel. Maybe Rachel had mentioned it. Maybe her mother had. Maybe. Or maybe Lauren had discovered the rental listing had suddenly stopped receiving bookings. Natalie hated that her own mind was beginning to suspect someone she'd trusted for over a decade. Exactly at 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Lauren stood outside carrying Jasper's pet carrier and a large bag of cat food. She smiled exactly the way she always had. Warm. Relaxed. Completely normal. "There you are." Lauren stepped inside. "I think somebody missed his mom." Jasper immediately began meowing. Natalie opened the carrier. The orange tabby walked out slowly, stretched, then rubbed against her legs. "I bought his favorite treats," Lauren said. "He got spoiled this month." "I'm sure he did." Natalie smiled. It almost felt genuine. For the next 15 minutes they talked about ordinary things. Traffic. Work. The Texas heat. A new restaurant Lauren wanted to try. If someone had walked in, they would have seen two lifelong friends catching up after a business trip. Nothing more. But Natalie wasn't really listening. She was watching. Every movement. Every expression. Every reaction. Lauren wandered into the kitchen. "Mind if I grab some water?" "Go ahead." She opened the cabinet. Without hesitation. Exactly the right cabinet. She grabbed a glass. Filled it. Drank half. Then placed it in the dishwasher. Not the sink. The dishwasher. Natalie felt a chill run down her spine. Lauren knew this kitchen almost as well as she did. Of course she did. She'd visited hundreds of times. That wasn't suspicious. Was it? Natalie couldn't tell anymore. Everything suddenly looked suspicious. Before leaving, Lauren hugged her. "I'm glad you're home." "Me too. If work sends you away again next month." She smiled. "Jasper already knows where he belongs." Natalie forced another smile. "Thanks." Lauren waved goodbye and disappeared down the hallway. The front door closed. Silence returned. Jasper wandered through the condo. First the living room. Then the bedroom. Then the guest room. He stopped at several places, sniffing the carpet much longer than usual. His ears twitched. He walked to the sofa. Sniffed. Moved to the dining table. Sniffed again. Finally he jumped onto the windowsill and looked outside. Natalie watched him. Then a memory surfaced. Every single time she returned from a business trip, Jasper did exactly this. She had always assumed he was readjusting after staying at Lauren's house. Now another possibility entered her mind. Maybe he had been smelling strangers. Different people. Different suitcases. Different perfumes. Different lives. Every month. Inside his own home. The realization made her stomach turn. She slowly sat down on the couch. Jasper climbed into her lap and purred. Natalie gently stroked his fur. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I had no idea." The next morning, she spread 12 months of electric bills across her dining table. A pattern emerged almost immediately. Whenever she stayed home, her electricity usage remained perfectly normal. Whenever she traveled, the numbers nearly tripled. There was no coincidence anymore. Only proof. She picked up her phone and called Daniel. "I think I have enough." Daniel listened carefully before answering. "You probably do." "What now?" "I'd still recommend giving Lauren one opportunity to explain." Natalie remained silent. "If she's innocent," Daniel continued, "this conversation could help identify who really did it. And if she isn't?" Daniel's voice became firm. "Then don't argue. Don't accuse. Just listen. After that, we go to the police." Natalie didn't sleep much that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined strangers unlocking her front door, dragging suitcases across her hardwood floors, laughing in her living room, watching television on her couch, sleeping in her bed. The condo no longer felt entirely hers. By morning, she'd made up her mind. She texted Lauren. "Coffee Saturday? It's been forever since we've actually caught up." The reply came less than a minute later. "Absolutely. Same cafe. Perfect." Saturday arrived warm and sunny. The little coffee shop in downtown Plano had been their place for years. Birthdays, job promotions, heartbreaks, celebrations. If something important happened, they met there. Lauren was already seated by the window when Natalie arrived. She smiled and waved. "I ordered your usual. A vanilla latte." Exactly what Natalie always drank. Normally, that thoughtful gesture would have made her smile. Today, it only made everything hurt a little more. Natalie sat down. "Thanks." For a minute they talked about ordinary things. Traffic. Work. Weekend plans. Neither woman mentioned why they were really there. Finally, Natalie reached into her bag. She removed a folder. Lauren frowned. "What's that?" Natalie laid several printed pages on the table. The vacation rental listing. Photos of the condo. The electric bills. The payment screenshot Rachel had sent. Lauren looked down. At first she seemed confused. Then curious. Then concerned. "What is this?" "My condo has been rented to strangers while I've been traveling." Lauren stared at her. "What?" Natalie didn't break eye contact. "Someone has been listing my home online." Lauren picked up one of the papers. Her eyes moved quickly across the page. She looked genuinely shocked. "Natalie, this has to be fake." "I wish it were." Lauren turned another page. Then another. She reached Rachel's screenshot. The one showing the payment recipient. Her face instantly lost its color. She froze. Natalie noticed it immediately. "You recognize that name?" Lauren whispered before she even realized she was speaking. "Brittany." Natalie stayed silent. Lauren slowly looked up. My sister. The words barely escaped her mouth. Natalie felt her heartbeat pounding in her ears. So it is her. Lauren shook her head violently. No. 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 She wouldn't. Natalie slid the family Christmas photo across the table. The payment goes to Brittany Mitchell. Lauren stared at the picture. Then covered her mouth with one trembling hand. Oh my God. For several seconds she couldn't speak. People around them continued drinking coffee, laughing, typing on laptops. Nobody noticed that one friendship was beginning to fall apart only a few feet away. Finally Lauren whispered. I swear to you. I didn't know. Natalie studied her face. Every tiny movement. Every blink. Every breath. If you didn't know. How did your sister know exactly when I was gone? Lauren's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. She had access somehow. How? Lauren searched desperately for an answer. Then suddenly stopped talking. Her expression changed. Almost like she'd remembered something. My keys. What? My key ring. Lauren looked horrified. I always hang it beside the front door. Natalie listened without interrupting. Brittany lives with me. Lauren's voice shook. She could have borrowed my keys while I was asleep. Or taken them while I was at work. She could have copied your key. Natalie didn't respond. Lauren continued talking faster now. She works from home sometimes. She's alone in the apartment. I never would have noticed if the keys disappeared for an hour. Natalie folded her hands. That explains the key. Lauren nodded. But not how she always knew when I was traveling. Lauren looked down at the table. She stopped. Natalie waited. I usually told Brittany when I was watching Jasper. Natalie's chest tightened. You told her? I never thought anything about it. Lauren's voice cracked. She'd ask why I couldn't go out after work. I'd say, I'm watching Natalie's cat because she's in Amarillo. Or, she's in Corpus Christi this week. Lauren closed her eyes. I never imagined. Natalie quietly finished the sentence. That someone was using that information. A tear rolled down Lauren's cheek. I know how this looks. It looks terrible. I swear. I never made a single dollar from this. Natalie believed that Lauren believed what she was saying. But belief wasn't proof. And proof was exactly what mattered now. Lauren reached across the table. Natalie. Please. Give me one day. I'll go home. I'll confront Brittany. I'll find out everything. Natalie slowly pulled her hand back. If I don't get the truth. She paused. I'm taking everything to the police. Lauren lowered her head. I understand. No. She whispered. I deserve that. The two women sat in silence. For the first time in 13 years. Neither of them knew what to say next. Lauren left the coffee shop looking like someone carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Natalie remained seated for another 20 minutes. Her latte had gone cold. People came and went around her, laughing, chatting, living perfectly ordinary Saturdays. Meanwhile, 13 years of friendship sat on the table in front of her, scattered across a handful of printed screenshots. She carefully placed every document back into the folder. Then she drove home. The condo felt even quieter than usual. Jasper greeted her at the door before curling up on the couch. Natalie tried reading. She tried watching television. She even attempted to answer work emails. Nothing held her attention. Every few minutes she glanced at her phone. No message. No call. Nothing from Lauren. Around 6 that evening, Daniel called. Did you meet with her? I did. How did it go? Natalie explained everything. Lauren's reaction. Her explanation about the spare key. The possibility that Brittany had secretly copied it. Daniel remained silent until she finished. Finally, he asked one question. Do you believe Lauren? Natalie stared out the living room window. I believe. She chose her words carefully. That she was genuinely shocked. That's not the same thing as knowing she's innocent. No. It isn't. Daniel sighed. Emotionally, this is going to be difficult. I know. But legally, it changes nothing. Natalie nodded even though he couldn't see her. If Brittany entered your home without permission and profited from it, that's still a crime. What if Lauren unknowingly helped? Then investigators will determine whether she knowingly participated. What should I do now? Wait. For how long? You promised 1 day. Keep your word. If Lauren brings evidence tomorrow. Good. If she doesn't. Daniel paused. We filed the report Monday morning. Sunday came. Natalie barely slept. By noon there was still no message. She tried convincing herself Lauren was gathering information. Maybe Brittany wasn't home. Maybe they were arguing. Maybe. At 3:17 p.m., her phone buzzed. Lauren. The text was painfully short. Can we talk? Natalie replied almost immediately. Call me. The phone rang less than 30 seconds later. Lauren sounded exhausted. Not angry. Broken. I talked to Brittany. Natalie waited. She admitted everything. The words landed like concrete. Natalie slowly sat down. Everything. Lauren took a shaky breath. She confessed. She copied your key almost 2 years ago. Natalie closed her eyes. How? You remember when I asked to borrow your key because maintenance needed access to your condo? Natalie thought back. It had happened nearly 2 years earlier. She had been working in Lubbock at the time. Lauren had called saying building maintenance needed to inspect every unit after a plumbing issue. Natalie hadn't questioned it. She had simply told Lauren to use the spare key. Lauren continued. That evening I left your key on the kitchen counter. Brittany was home. When I went to bed, she took it. Natalie's chest tightened. The next morning she put it back before I noticed. So she made a copy. Lauren quietly answered. Yes. Neither woman spoke for several seconds. Finally Natalie asked. How did she always know when I was traveling? Lauren let out a long, frustrated sigh. I finally figured that out too. What was it? My iCloud account. Natalie frowned. What? Brittany helped me set up my phone years ago. Lauren sounded disgusted with herself. We shared a family cloud account for photos. I completely forgot about it. Natalie listened carefully. Every text message you sent me. Lauren's voice cracked. She could read. Natalie's heart sank. Whenever Natalie texted. Leaving for El Pozo tomorrow. Brittany knew. Whenever she wrote. Back Friday afternoon. Brittany knew that too. Whenever Lauren replied. Don't worry. Jasper's with me. Brittany knew the condo would be empty. Every single trip. Every single month. For almost 2 years. Lauren began crying. I had no idea. I swear to you. I never imagined she still had access to my messages. Natalie believed her. Or at least. She wanted to. What did Brittany say? Natalie finally asked. Lauren hesitated. She said. She didn't think anyone was getting hurt. Natalie almost laughed. Except nothing about this was funny. She actually said that. Yes. What else? Lauren swallowed. She said. Natalie travels all the time. The condo just sits there empty. I was only making money from something nobody was using. Natalie couldn't believe what she was hearing. So she thought that made it okay. Lauren whispered. I asked her the same thing. What did she say? Lauren's voice became almost inaudible. She said, nobody loses anything if they never find out. Silence filled the call. Natalie looked around her living room. The couch. The dining table. The hallway. Everything suddenly felt violated. Not because something had been stolen, but because someone had convinced themselves they had the right to use a stranger's life as their business. Finally Lauren spoke again. Natalie. I'll testify. If the police ask me, I'll tell them everything. Natalie closed her eyes. The decision she'd been avoiding all weekend was suddenly clear. Monday morning. She was going to the police. Monday morning arrived grey and unusually cool for North Texas. Natalie barely noticed. She had already been awake for hours. The folder containing every screenshot, every utility bill, every photograph, and every text message sat neatly organized on her kitchen table. She checked it one final time. Nothing was missing. At exactly 9 a.m., she walked into the Plano Police Department. The front desk officer greeted her politely. Good morning. How can we help you? Natalie swallowed. I need to report someone for illegally renting my home. The officer looked up immediately. Do you have documentation? Yes. He nodded. Please have a seat. An investigator will be with you shortly. About 15 minutes later, a detective introduced himself. I'm Detective Marcus Hayes. His handshake was firm but calm. He led Natalie into a small interview room. There were no dramatic interrogation lights. Just a table. 3 chairs. A recorder. And a legal pad. Marcus switched on the recorder. Whenever you're ready. Natalie took a deep breath. She started from the beginning. The business trips. The unusually high electric bills. Mrs. Simmons' phone call. The couple leaving her condo. The online listing. Lauren. Brittany. The copied key. The shared cloud account. Detective Hayes interrupted only to clarify dates and names. When Natalie finished, he quietly looked through the evidence. Several minutes passed. Finally he leaned back. This is unusually organized. Natalie managed a tired smile. My attorney suggested I document everything before coming here. He gave you good advice. Marcus continued reviewing the screenshots. 38 reviews. Nearly 2 years of bookings. Dozens of payment confirmations. The listing calendar. Everything matched. He circled one detail with his pen. The payment account belongs to Brittany Mitchell. Yes. And Lauren voluntarily admitted her sister had access to your spare key. Yes. Did Lauren ever receive money? As far as I know, no. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. We'll verify that. The detective closed the folder. Here's what happens next. Natalie listened carefully. We'll request information from the rental platform. We'll subpoena payment records. We'll examine the financial transactions. We'll also interview everyone involved. Natalie hesitated. Lauren too? Yes. Is she in trouble? Marcus chose his words carefully. At this point, everyone connected to the situation will be interviewed. But interviews don't automatically mean criminal charges. Natalie slowly nodded. She understood. There was no way around it now. That afternoon, Natalie stopped by a locksmith. She wasn't willing to wait another day. Within 2 hours, every lock on her condo had been replaced. Deadbolt. Front door lock. Storage room lock. Even the mailbox. The locksmith handed her 2 brand new keys. Keep the spare somewhere safe. Natalie looked at the second key for a long moment. Then slipped both into her own purse. There wouldn't be another spare. Not for anyone. Not anymore. The following weeks moved painfully slowly. Life appeared normal on the surface. Natalie returned to work. She traveled to Waco. Then Amarillo. Then back to Dallas. But something had changed. Instead of asking friends to watch Jasper, she hired a licensed pet sitting service. It cost more. Much more. She didn't care. Peace of mind had become worth every dollar. Lauren never questioned the decision. In fact, Lauren barely contacted her at all. Occasionally a short text would appear. "Hope you're doing okay." Or, "Thinking about you today." Natalie never knew how to answer. Sometimes she replied with a simple thanks. Sometimes she didn't answer at all. Neither option felt right. Nearly 6 weeks after filing the report, Detective Hayes finally called. "We've made significant progress." Natalie's heart immediately began racing. "What did you find?" The rental platform confirmed the account belonged to Brittany Mitchell. Natalie closed her eyes. So it really was her. "Yes. But that's only part of it." Marcus continued. "We also obtained bank records. There were 43 completed reservations over 21 months. Natalie stared silently out the window. 43. Not 38. 43 different groups of strangers had stayed inside her home. 43 families. 43 couples. 43 sets of complete strangers carrying luggage through her front door. She suddenly felt sick. Detective Hayes continued. The total income exceeded $30,000. Natalie almost dropped the phone. 30,000. She had expected a few thousand. Maybe 10. Not 30. For almost 2 years. Someone else had quietly built a business using the home Natalie had worked so hard to buy. Without asking. Without permission. Without a single moment of guilt. And according to the evidence, it had all been happening while she believed her condo was sitting empty, waiting for her to come home. Natalie ended the call and sat motionless at her kitchen table. $30,000. The number echoed in her mind. It wasn't only the money. It was the realization that, for nearly 2 years, complete strangers had walked through her front door, while she was sitting in conference rooms hundreds of miles away, believing her home was exactly where she'd left it. She looked around the condo. The family photos on the bookshelf. The quilt her grandmother had made years before she passed away. The books stacked beside the couch. People she had never met had lived among those memories. The thought made her skin crawl. 2 days later, Detective Hayes called again. "We've interviewed Brittany." Natalie immediately straightened in her chair. "What did she say?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "She confessed." Natalie wasn't surprised. What was her explanation? There was a brief silence. "Honestly, I've heard a lot of excuses during my career. This one ranks near the top." Natalie waited. "She said your condo was going to waste." Natalie let out a short, humorless laugh. "That's exactly what Lauren told me." Marcus continued. "According to Brittany, she never considered herself a burglar. She believed she was simply making use of an empty property." Natalie couldn't believe what she was hearing. She entered someone else's home with a coppered key. She accepted payments. She hosted more than 40 groups of guests. And she didn't think she was committing a crime. That's essentially what she claimed. Detective Hayes continued. There was something else. Natalie's stomach tightened. "What?" "We examined Brittany's phone. And we recovered almost everything. Reservations. Messages with guests. Digital lock instructions. Cleaning schedules. Receipts. Photographs taken after each stay. She had organized everything like a professional property manager." Natalie felt sick. Was there anything connecting Lauren? Marcus answered immediately. "No. Natalie frowned. Nothing. We searched carefully. There were no payments to Lauren. No messages showing planning. No evidence she knowingly participated. What we did find supports what Lauren told you. Natalie held her breath. Brittany had access to Lauren's cloud account. Every time you texted Lauren that you were leaving town, Brittany saw the message. Every time you mentioned coming home, she cancelled upcoming reservations before you arrived. Natalie slowly closed her eyes. So Lauren had been telling the truth. Every word. A week later, Lauren asked if they could meet one more time. Natalie almost declined. Instead, she agreed. They met at a quiet public park in Plano. Neither woman suggested coffee this time. It somehow didn't feel appropriate. Lauren looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. She had clearly been sleeping very little. "I'm moving out," she said quietly. Natalie looked surprised. "What?" "I can't live with Brittany anymore." Lauren stared across the lake. "I trusted her. I defended her. I spent days trying to convince myself there had to be some misunderstanding." She shook her head. "There wasn't." Natalie didn't know what to say. Lauren continued. "My parents are devastated. They had no idea. They've been helping me find another apartment." A long silence settled between them. Finally Lauren looked at Natalie. "I know I didn't do it. But every time I think about what happened, I realize I was the reason she had access." Natalie answered gently. "You didn't know. I should have." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "I should have protected you. You trusted me. And because of me, your home stopped being your home." Natalie felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to tell Lauren none of it was her fault. But she couldn't. Because although Lauren hadn't committed the crime, if their friendship had never existed, none of this could have happened. Some wounds were simply too complicated for simple answers. 3 months after the investigation began, the case finally reached court. Natalie sat quietly beside Daniel Foster. Across the courtroom sat Brittany. She looked very different from the smiling woman in the Christmas photo. Smaller somehow. Nervous. She avoided looking at Natalie. The prosecutor carefully presented the evidence. The coppered key. The rental listings. The bank deposits. The guest messages. The cloud account. There was very little for the defense to argue. The facts spoke for themselves. When the judge asked Brittany whether she wished to make a statement, she slowly stood. She looked toward Natalie for the first time. "I'm sorry." Her voice barely carried across the courtroom. "I convinced myself that because you were never home, it wasn't really hurting anyone." She paused. "I know now how wrong I was." Natalie listened without reacting. An apology couldn't erase 43 unauthorized stays. It couldn't restore the feeling of safety she'd once had every time she unlocked her own front door. Some things, once broken, never returned to exactly what they had been before. The courtroom remained silent for several long seconds after Brittany sat back down. The judge reviewed the case file one last time before delivering the decision. The evidence clearly establishes that the defendant knowingly entered private property without authorization, duplicated a key without permission, operated an unauthorized short-term rental business, and profited financially over an extended period. He looked directly at Brittany. This was not a single mistake. This was a repeated pattern of deliberate decisions. Brittany lowered her head. The judge continued. The court also finds no evidence that Lauren Mitchell knowingly participated in these crimes. Natalie glanced across the courtroom. Lauren closed her eyes. It was the first time in months that someone in authority had officially said what Natalie had slowly come to believe. Lauren hadn't betrayed her. She had been used. The sentence was straightforward. Because Brittany had no previous criminal record, had cooperated with investigators, and had admitted what she had done, she avoided prison. Instead, the judge ordered 2 years of supervised probation. Full restitution to Natalie for every dollar earned from the illegal rentals. 150 hours of community service. Court costs and additional financial penalties. A permanent criminal record. The courtroom clerk finished reading the order. Brittany remained seated, staring at the floor. For the first time since everything had begun, Natalie didn't feel angry. She felt tired. Very tired. Outside the courthouse, Daniel walked beside her. "You okay?" Natalie looked at the courthouse doors behind them. "I thought I'd feel relieved." "And? I don't." Daniel nodded. "That's more common than people expect. The legal case is finished. The emotional one usually takes longer." She gave him a small smile. "You've probably said that before." "I have. And it's almost always true." Before leaving, Daniel handed her a folder. "This explains how the restitution payments will work. They probably won't come all at once." Natalie nodded. "I figured. It may take years." "I know." She thanked him, and they went their separate ways. A week later, Natalie received the first payment. It wasn't much. Just a small amount transferred through the court's restitution program. She stared at the notification on her banking app. The money felt strange. It belonged to her. It always had. Yet getting it back didn't make her feel like she'd won anything. No amount of money could return the peace of mind she'd lost. Life slowly settled into a new routine. Work trips resumed. Dallas, Austin, Lubbock, Houston. But every time Natalie left town now, she checked the locks twice. Sometimes 3 times. She installed a smart security system with indoor sensors, outdoor cameras, and instant alerts on her phone. She added smart lighting that turned on automatically every evening. She even asked a trusted neighbor to collect her mail whenever she traveled. Not because she expected something to happen again. Because she never wanted to wonder again. Jasper adjusted faster than she did. Whenever Natalie returned from a trip, he still walked through every room. Still sniffed the corners. Still inspected the furniture. But now, Natalie understood why. She would smile softly and say, "Everything's okay, buddy. This time it's just us." Nearly 4 months after the trial, Lauren sent Natalie a message. It was longer than any message she'd written since the investigation began. "I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that I moved into my own apartment last month. I've cut off contact with Brittany. Not because she's my sister, she'll always be my sister. But because I can't pretend nothing happened. You trusted me more than anyone, and even though I wasn't guilty, I understand why things can never be the same. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you how deeply sorry I am for everything that happened." Natalie read the message 3 times. Then she placed her phone on the kitchen counter. Jasper jumped into her lap, purring loudly. She gently scratched behind his ears while staring through the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked exactly as it always had. Children rode bicycles. Neighbors walked their dogs. Life had continued moving forward. Eventually, Natalie picked up her phone again. She typed. Deleted the words. Typed another sentence. Deleted that too. Finally, she sent only one message. "I know you didn't do it. I truly believe that now. I hope one day you find peace." Lauren replied almost immediately. "Thank you." Nothing more. Neither woman suggested meeting. Neither mentioned rebuilding the friendship. They end because something invisible breaks. And even after the truth comes out, that invisible crack never completely disappears. Natalie had gotten her home back. She had gotten justice. She had even gotten the truth. But one thing could never be returned. The unquestioning trust she had once placed in another person. And perhaps That was the greatest loss of all.